All right, welcome back. So we have now concluded day number 2 of the TI10 group stage. We are actually more than halfway done our group stage now, as day 4 does not have as many games as the rest of them. But regardless, we are starting to see some teams starting to settle into their placements on this bracket, and we're starting to see kind of an idea of what the end result might look like. So starting off with our matches for today, of course, Group B played more than Group A today, and I'm going to be bouncing back and forth as we go through the day. So for October 8th, aka day 2 of the TI10 group stage, we started at 10 a.m. local time, Bucharest, with PSG LGD taking on Team Secret. This was a pretty competitive series, but it wasn't one that was really intense. Both games were just one team being very dominant over the other. Still a great watch, though, as it was two powerhouses of this group going at it. And I gotta say, Yapsor and Jin Q had a hell of a series, specifically in the games that they had won for their teams. They were playing quite well for themselves. We had Vichy Gaming playing against Elephant. This was a pretty one-sided series for Vichy Gaming, just showing how freaking good they are. Beast Coast against Quincy Crew. This was, again, kind of a series like Team Secret and PSG LGD, but a lot more chaotic, where just one team was super dominant on the first game and the next team was super dominant on the second one, just polar opposites of each other. But again, much more chaotic than the very composed and competitive PSG LGD and Team Secret. That's just kind of the way that Beast Coast rolls. SGE takes a 2-0 win over Fnatic, which actually surprised me a lot, as I have obviously projected Sg Esports to finish at the bottom. I was super happy to see them win. I always love when there's an underdog taking games off of some bigger teams. This was definitely a series that Fnatic should have gotten at least 1 point out of, but they just were not able to close games out. And Sg Esports took advantage of that, and they looked really good doing it. They were very composed. They're very patient. They waited their moment. And yeah, they take their first series win of the TI10 group stage. Following that, at noon, jumping over to Group A now, we had Aster taking on OG, and you could immediately tell how important it was that White Album was back. So, like I mentioned yesterday, White Album was too sick to play yesterday, and they had a replacement for him who I won't say played necessarily bad, but it was definitely not the same Aster that we were used to seeing to that point. And you could just tell as soon as the game started that Aster was just playing with so much more confidence. Their team fights just looked better. Their overall rotations and map movements, everything. Hell, even White Album himself looked like he was playing fantastically, even though they had stated that he was hardly even able to eat, and he was still shaking from all the chills. And you couldn't even tell just based on how well he was playing. So super glad to see that he's back. I'm hoping for a speedy recovery for him, because like I said, this was a completely different team from yesterday. Aster, of course, went 0-4 yesterday. They go 3-1 today. So big difference. And then next up, we had T1 taking on Virtus Pro. This was another series where I think Virtus Pro maybe trusted their carry Dawnbreaker too much, but it really just ended up giving them late game damage issues. Which is something that ended up biting them in the butt later on today too. So T1 takes that. EG and Alliance split their series 1-1. Again, another series where one team just looks very dominant in game 1, and then the total opposite in game 2. So that happens there. And then IG versus Thunder Predator. This was just a better team, just playing some better Dota, and man, it's looking rough for Thunder Predator. I'm not gonna lie. It's not looking good right now. And it won't get better throughout the day either. At 2 p.m. now, jumping back over to Group B, we had Team Spirit taking on Elephant, and Team Spirit was, I think this was their first win of the to this point in the group stage, and they looked dominant against Elephant. They were playing some of their best Dota I've seen them play in a while, so I'm super happy to see that. Of course, myself, I'm a huge fan of, well, I won't say a huge fan, but I'm a big fan of their players, a big fan of the team, and I'm really hoping that they do well, so I was super happy to see that. PSG LGD takes a 2-0 win over Fnatic, though this may be a little bit deceiving because it was not an easy 2-0. This was actually a series where Fnatic had a lot of opportunities, just like in the one that they had played earlier that day, to take maybe a game or two off of PSG LGD, but they just weren't able to close out games. A few mistakes here and there when it came to sieging or crucial pickoffs, and then the game just slipped out of their hands. You can't let a team as good as PSG LGD have any of those opportunities, because they will exploit it to the maximum. And they did. So Fnatic, again, they are robbed of a win, and so far to this point, they're 0-4 on the day. Vichy Gaming takes a 2-0 win over Quincy Crew. This was just Quincy Crew just being better at team fighting. Quincy Crew was Vichy Gaming being much better at fighting. Quincy Crew was having a really hard time managing fights, finding the right targets that they wanted to hit, and just overall, Vichy Gaming again playing some great Dota. And finally, we had Team Secret against Sg Esports. I think game 1 was very dominant for Team Secret, but game 2, Sg Esports actually had a pretty considerable lead, but again, subtle mistakes, just leaving the door open for Team Secret to come in and steal that game from them. This is a series that Sg Esports could have stolen a game off of a team as good as Team Secret, but it slips out of their hands. Jumping back over to Group A for the last time of the day, we had IG taking on Virtus Pro. Again, Virtus Pro maybe putting a little bit too much trust in this carry Dawnbreaker, as IG just picks a high HP carry hero that scales very well, and they just end up having damage issues as the game goes on. So no matter how well they do at the start, as well as the fact that Dawnbreaker is not the best hero at sieging, if she's not able to kill anything, she's not going to be able to siege anything. So they just, even though they did super well at the start, as they usually do with this carry Dawnbreaker, they just were not able to close out the game. We've seen this 3 times now, against OG, against T1, and now against IG. So I think it's time maybe to switch things up, or maybe just not necessarily maybe stop playing the carry Dawnbreaker, but maybe get an objective taker or some sort of mid that can deal damage, because they're usually running it with a Void Spirit mid or some sort of mobile mid that has a lot of catch up and disruption, but no real damage or follow up or setup or anything like that. So I think what they have there is good. They just need something else, some other piece of the puzzle there to actually complete it. Again, this is just my opinion. I'm not a professional player, just my opinion. Yeah, we had Aster and Alliance splitting their series. Again, another case of one team looking very good in game 1 and the next team looking very good in game 2. That was pretty much the case for every single series that was split 1-1 today. Undying actually beats Thunder Predator, so this was a series that Undying, they actually played very well in game 1, and then in game 2, Thunder Predator picks the first Anti-Mage of the tournament in a Dream Anti-Mage game, mind you. I believe there was a Silencer, Storm Spirit, and Medusa in the same game, all a bunch of heroes with no stuns and high mana pools. Storm obviously has a very little bit of a stun, but yeah, they just got crushed so hard in the early game that it didn't even matter that they had a Dream Anti-Mage game, because their whole base was gone by 30 minutes. So Thunder Predator, again, not doing very well, no wins yet to this point. They've played half of their matches and they have nothing to show for it. OG then plays against T1, and OG, after losing 2-0 earlier that day, they get their revenge, not necessarily because T1 did anything to them, but they're back to showing that they're one of the better teams, so they beat T1 2-0. Finally, to end the day, back in Group B at 6 p.m. local time, we had Team Secret and Elephant playing. This was, again, like I had mentioned, another case of one team being very good in game 1 and the other being very good in game 2. Game 2 was a game that probably did not need to be as long as it was. Elephant was way ahead. I think they ended the game with like a 60,000 net worth lead. It was ridiculous. They were just playing as super slow paced as possible, just making sure they weren't missing anything, because again, Team Secret is a team that if you mess up one time, they are going to abuse it, as we've seen even today. Like I said, Fnatic played against them, and they just Sg Esports played against them, and they lost it just right there. So Elephant trying to make sure that that didn't happen to them, and it didn't. So yeah, they split the series 1-1. Vichy Gaming then wins 2-0 against Team Spirit. This was just, again, Vichy Gaming just knowing how to manage team fights, knowing how to maneuver around the map and taking map control. This was also just a very good series for both Ori, Poyoyo, as well as Old 11 at some points. He was maybe a little bit too confident at some points, but nonetheless, he was making some great plays. When he was playing Shaker, he had some great Echo Slams. So pretty good series for Vichy Gaming in general. We then had Beast Coast taking on their SA rivals, Sg Esports. Beast Coast ends up winning that one 2-0. This was a bloodbath of a series, as you might expect from teams coming from South America. Game 1 was very close. Just Beast Coast ended up getting better kills and just slightly getting ahead every single fight, to the point where Sg Esports weren't able to contain them anymore. So a slow but bloody victory for them in game 1. And then in game 2, Sg Esports was actually leading until they took one costly fight that turned the tide of the game, and Beast Coast ends up winning it from there. Another pretty good series. And then finally, we had Quincy Crew splitting their match against Fnatic. This again was just one team being pretty okay in the pretty good in the first game, and then not so good in the second. I will say that the games were a lot closer than some of these other series that were split. Fnatic and Quincy Crew were very much battling it out in game one, and then just like the way that Beast Coast beat SG Esports, Fnatic just kind of ended up ahead. And then in game two, Fnatic was kind of owning early on, and Quincy Crew ended up making kind of a comeback in the mid game, and they ended up taking that game when maybe they shouldn't have. So yet again, another game slipping out of the hands of Fnatic. They have got to deal with that. They've had plenty of games today and even yesterday where they had an opportunity to win and they just couldn't secure it. So definitely going to be something to look out for Fnatic going forward. As for the standings now, I've kind of laid it out where I have each team slotted in as well as their record in the tournament so far. And I've also got all of the games that they have remaining against each team written next to them. All the names written in orange are games that they're playing tomorrow, and all the names written in red are the games that they're going to be playing on day 4 of the group stage. So notably, every single team in this group, other than Alliance, is only playing one game on the final day. Or as opposed to Group B, where every single team is playing twice, other than I believe it's Fnatic that's only playing once. So for Group A, we have Vichy Gaming finishing being 9-1 so far. They are at the top of the group so far. OG 7-3, EG 5-3, as well as Undying, another NA team that I was personally not expecting to be doing this well, but I could not be happier. They are on a 5-game winning streak right now. They have not lost since they started going 0-3 in the groups. And then have VP with 5 points as well. However, they've played 10 games. Alliance going 4-6, Aster going 3-5, T1 going 2-6, and Thunder Predator 0-8. So Thunder Predator really needing to turn it around here. They still have an opportunity to make it out of this group stage, but they need to start getting wins. And unfortunately for them, their schedule does not necessarily get easier from here. They still have some pretty tough matches. Tomorrow they play against Virtus Pro, Evil Geniuses, and Aster. And even though Aster is near the bottom of the leaderboard in Group A, they had a hell of a day today. They went 0-4 in day 1 and 3-1 today. Like I said, White Album is a huge part of their team, and it is just a completely different team than day 1 for them. So Thunder Predator going to have to kind of defy the impossible here, just in my opinion, because right now they're looking like the front runner to be eliminated from this group. Invictus is playing against Aster as well tomorrow, as well as Alliance. OG plays against EG and Undying. EG plays against OG, Thunder Predator, and Virtus Pro. Undying plays against Alliance, OG, and T1. Virtus Pro plays against Thunder Predator and EG. Alliance plays against Undying, T1, and IG, and then they're done. They're going to be the first team to finish group stage. They're the only team to be finishing group stage on day 3. So to this point, they've already played most of their series. Aster is going to be playing against T1, IG, and Thunder Predator. T1 is going to be playing against Aster, Alliance, and Undying. And then, like I mentioned, Thunder Predator tomorrow plays against Virtus Pro, EG, and Aster. And then they finish their series, their group stage, with T1, which is, again, not exactly a team you'd want to be facing with the chance of making it out of this group stage. So before I jump into Group B now, I just want to say sorry if this is a little bit cluttered. I tried just kind of making it clear on which teams might have a little bit more difficult schedules upcoming, but I know that it's a little bit cramped. It's kind of a lot of information all in one spot, so you guys can let me know if it's too much stuff, and I'll make a change. Of course, when I do my review tomorrow, it won't be as many games, but still, it'll probably be a little bit cluttered. So just let me know if it's a problem for you guys, and I'll change that. So now for Group B, we have Vichy Gaming finishing at the top of the group with 9-1. PSG LGD drops to second place, but not because they play poorly, just because Vichy Gaming just has more wins from the fact that they have more games played. So PSG LGD sits at 7-1. Secret finishes 6-4. Beast Coast 5-3. Elephant 4-6. Fnatic 3-7, and then the bottom 3 teams are all 2-6, and that is Team Spirit, Sg Esports, and Quincy Crew. All of these teams very close together. I believe that a bunch of them haven't even played against each other yet. So it's going to be kind of interesting because it might end up being what decides which team ends up moving on. So Vichy Gaming plays against PSG LGD and Beast Coast tomorrow. PSG LGD, of course, like I just mentioned, plays against Vichy and SG Esports. Secret only has 1 series tomorrow, so avoid picking anyone from Team Secret tomorrow, and I'll get into that when I do my preview. They're only playing against Quincy. Beast Coast is playing against Fnatic and Vichy. Elephant, again, only playing 1 series for them as well, against SG Esports. Fnatic plays against Beast Coast and Team Spirit. Spirit plays against Quincy Crew and Fnatic. And then SG Esports plays against Elephant and LGD. And Quincy Crew plays against Team Spirit and Team Secret. So Yeah, a lot of important games for a lot of the lower tier teams. Or not lower tier, but some of the teams lower on the standing here. Team Spirit in general, I think, has probably the easiest schedule for tomorrow of the 3 teams at the bottom. But yeah, every single series for all of those teams super important. They're all up for they're all up for elimination, as well as some of the other teams are a little bit ahead. Elephant only winning 1 game today. I had mentioned yesterday that even though they had went 3-1 in the day, I wasn't super convinced. Even though they're one of the teams that I was expecting to kind of do well at this tournament. It was a 3-1 day, but it wasn't a day that was a well-won 3-1 day, if I'm saying that correctly. They just didn't really look all that strong in those games that they ended up winning. And so they ended up going 1-5 today on Elephant. So, yeah, they didn't have the best day. So they're also not free from getting eliminated yet. They've only got 4 wins. Same thing goes for Fnatic. Again, a lot of games that they should have won that they just couldn't, and it might end up being what costs them this group stage. But again, it's also close. We won't know until the end of the group stage. So, yeah, looking at the top fantasy picks, I wanted to do the top fantasy picks for today, but I couldn't find that information. If you know anywhere where I can find that, let me know, because I would love to put it in here. But for now, I just have the top fantasy picks in total so far, which includes some of the same players as yesterday. For example, our number 1 spot for core right now is still Sumail, sitting at 194.87 points. We have Raven from Fnatic. He's sitting at 183.12 points. For mids, the top of the mids is actually one that I grabbed today, and I'm very fortunate about, and that's Ori. He has 184.78 points. As for supports, our top support is Yapzor, another one that I've grabbed, and I'm super happy about that. He finishes with 173.88 points. And then DJ from Fnatic. So again, a lot of Fnatic players here, even though they're not winning games, because their games are going longer, because they're not ending them as soon as they could be, or because they're throwing them, there's just more points up for grabs for them. So it might end up being worthwhile grabbing some Fnatic players. Although I don't think they have any days where they're playing a substantially more amount of games than any other team, so it might be too late. Yeah, DJ finishing with 167.57 points. As for my matches of the day, I had Sg Esports against Fnatic Game 2, PSG versus Fnatic Game 1. Again, these are games where Fnatic was not the winner of them, and that's why they were good games, because they should have been. And then finally, Team Secret versus Elephant Game 1. We weren't nearly as spoiled as we were yesterday with fantastic games. I know yesterday I was struggling to only pick 4 games and not have the whole board be full of games to watch, but yeah, we still had some pretty decent ones, just not nearly as many as yesterday. So yeah, that does it. That's my review of group stage day number 2 of TI10. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you think is going to be eliminated from each group? Do you think Thunder Predator is done for? Do you think they have a turnaround coming? I know I've seen them play well, and I'm hoping that they can at least win a few games if this does end up being as far as they get in the tournament. But regardless, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Who do you think is going to win each group 2? It's another big one, as I know that a lot of the teams near the top haven't even played against each other yet. EG and OG haven't played against each other. Vichy Gaming and PSG have not played against each other. Those are going to be fantastic series, so can't wait to watch them. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to have a preview up in just a little bit, so be on the lookout for that. All right, thank you for watching.